doing great. Last segment, we were just sort of getting fired up for today's doubleheader for the Phillies, especially Game 2. Is Game 2, I know you got 6 o'clock Sports Center, so you got some things that you have to do. But is 6:45, if you were home, a make sure everything is done so you can just lock in game with Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler going toe-to-toe tonight?
Without question. Honestly, guys, like, it doesn't matter who Wheels is playing against. I'm watching them no matter what, especially when you have young kids. I got a 13-year-old and an 11-year-old boys who play baseball. Like, I think Chris Sale's had a phenomenal run turning around his career. But for me, when I watch Wheeler reminds me of Roy Halliday when it comes to demeanor and how he's just locked in and he's dependable. Like, that was that run that when we brought Roy, like, Cliff Lee was great. Like, he was a magician. When Roy was on the mound, he was methodical, and he was a maniac. And I knew that if his best stuff is great, we're going to have a great day. If his best stuff isn't good, I'm still fighting with his best stuff no matter what. I feel that way, the same way with Wheeler. When Wheeler's on the mound, no matter what his stuff is like, we are going to still put up a fight because he's a grinder. I mean, look what he did in that Sacramento game. Like, the mound is basically a cement block. What do? You adjust, and you throw fastballs because you cannot get any type of hole there by the mound, and it drove him crazy. So he figured it out. He threw a whole bunch of fastballs. Not ideal, but that's what gamers do. That's the mentality that he has. I absolutely love in sports, and I'm just glad that he's a Philly.
Jeff Francoeur told us last segment when he joined us that if he had one game to win, he'd want Zach Wheeler on the mound. Of all the pitchers in baseball, and he's told me that before. That's the guy.
That's a high compliment. And that tells you what you need to know, right? Like, I think we all felt that way 15 years ago with Roy Halliday, right? Like,
sure.
If Roy's on the mound, all right, we've got our best guy no matter what. And he may not, again, I'll come back. He may not have his best stuff, but he's going to find a way to grind it out and make it hell for the hitters no matter what the situation is. And Wheels brings the same approach. I just think we're really grateful to have him, especially at his peak. And there's no garbage around him. Like, there's no BS. Just go out there, do your job every 5th day, and make sure you bring it. And he does. And that's why I watch him, regardless of going up against Sale. Again, Sale's story is miraculous, and where he was a couple of years ago to what he did last year. Still ticked off that I felt like Wheeler deserved more Cy Young consideration. But, like, I think it's going to be a fantastic matchup, and I'll be definitely having it on in the studio while on the air till 7:30.
Kevin, one of our topics today that we've had listeners send in answers to is whether or not you can make it in the city of Philadelphia if you don't get the city of Philadelphia. And the reason why we're having this conversation, Bryce Huff not at OTAs yesterday. There's a report that it could be mutual. But again, if I'm Bryce Huff after having a bad season, year one of a big contract, not dressing for the Super Bowl because of my poor play, I'm doing anything I can to get back to the playing days that I was able to have just 2 years ago. Can players who not get the city of Philadelphia make it in Philly?
That's a really good question. I would flip it around. Players who get the city of Philadelphia and that are decent players but not great players will always survive. That's kind of how I would answer that question. If you don't understand the city and you're decent, it could bury you, right? You don't understand what the city's about, and you don't understand, like, how we are kind of wired, and you don't have to embrace and be a fan of it. It's just more of understanding it. You could be dismissed very quickly. We've seen talented guys that come into town, free agents, are like, whoa, I didn't know it was going to be like this. And then they say one or two things and, take umbrage with something, and then all of a sudden they fall apart. But I would always say this. Look at many of the players from the past that had issues with Philly, and then they come back, and then I look at it differently. I understand it differently. Even one of our biggest stars, Mike Schmidt, had a phenomenal career, the greatest third baseman of all time. Love him to death. He's fantastic in the booth. he had issues, and some people, there's a generation that can't even imagine that this guy went out on a wig, went out to play one inning with a wig on because he was getting booed. And he understands the relationship in the city. Like, an all-time great player, and then he got on the same page with the fans. Like, if you understand the fans, you have a head start in basically having a successful career, regardless of what you do on the field.
The Eagles start with their minicamp, and it was Bryce Huff doesn't show up yesterday, and there could be a thing where they've asked him to stay away, so we don't know. But the optics of a team, we talked about it this week, of the fan base learning to be top dog. Even Andrew's saying today he's a little upset with the ESPN computer now, which believes that the Eagles are the top dogs.
Yeah, Kevin, you know my war with the FPI over
He's
there.
a little upset.
They usually disrespect the Eagles. Now all of a sudden the Eagles win the Super Bowl and the computer changes its tune.
I'm saying, Kev, I really think there is a large segment of the population here that is having some problems getting used to the fact that we got to go into the season realizing we are top dogs, and you got to deal with it.
John and Andrew, they can't stand it. And it's great. Isn't it great to get underneath the skin of national audiences? They can't stand it. They can't. They don't like it. They go with the garbage BS narrative of Philadelphia fans. And listen, they just don't want to see us happy. They enjoy seeing us miserable. And you know what? The more we are where we're at with this football team and how we won that Super Bowl and how things are played out, let's just sit where we're at right now and enjoy it. We're never going to be able to convince the people on the outside, no matter what. It doesn't matter, though, because in the end, the facts are the facts. They're reigning Super Bowl champs, and they'll have to eventually get over it. Let me tell you, it drives so many people crazy, so many fan bases crazy about what the Eagles did and how they accomplished it and what they did in New Orleans. And it's so satisfying when that happens, right? Like, you get to a point when you're with a hater, and no one has haters if you're not doing something well, right? And that's what it is.
Gotta love it.
Great point. Now, Kevin, earlier today I told a story to John and Brendan Gunn, our producer, because today is the 15-year anniversary of Roy Halliday. You just talked about Roy Halliday and his perfect game. It was also game one of the Stanley Cup Finals for the Flyers. So my dad and my mom were at one of our neighbors' houses for the Flyers, like a little playoff watch party, right? And I stayed home. And I had the opportunity to flip back and forth. And when I noticed what was happening, I was wondering if my dad was watching the game at the Chilla household. As soon as the final out happened, I texted my dad and I said, "Did you guys have the Phillies game on?" And his response was no. And my heart sunk. But as a baseball guy, my dad was not angry with me that I didn't text him. He understood. However, he was still disappointed. Would you have sent the text knowing about jinxes and with no hitters and perfect games?
I don't believe in jinxes, no hitters and perfect games. Now, mind you, I did the highlight on SportsCenter that night. I was in the newsroom while that was being played out, and our coordinating producer, Judd Birch, is a diehard Phillies fan. Like, diehard Phillies fan. Like, he's a Rolodex and an encyclopedia all in once about any Philly game in any situation. So we were watching the game, and we knew what was going on. We didn't talk about it, but I didn't think that whether I brought it up or not would affect it. Now, I was also lucky enough to be in attendance with my brother with Doc's no-no in the playoff game against the Reds. We were there at the game, me and my brother. And in the sixth inning, I looked at him and I said, "You see the scoreboard?" And he's like, "Yup, I see it." I said, "All right, we've got something special tonight." And we knew we were watching Doc, phenomenal stuff, but we knew that it was. We got up. I got invited to see my buddy Scotty Air, former Phillies pitcher, who was there actually, and he was like, "Hey, I'm sitting over here. Come visit us here." And we went over to see him, and we watched the final 2 innings and with him and seeing it from his perspective, and he still did it. We didn't. Us moving around us, talking about us being fascinated didn't affect it. I would never ever think that whatever I do affects it. Now, there was a time growing up, like when I watched the Eagles as a kid, and if they were winning, Like, I kicked family members out of the room the minute that they would walk in and something bad happened.
So you are a little superstitious.
No, he grew up. He became.
okay.
He became an adult.
Yeah.
And he figured out that none of that stuff exists.
I was a kid. I was 16 at the time.
See? So it's relatable to what you were at the time.
Right.
But now you don't
No.
carry that the same way, right?
They do.
I still wouldn't text
still
it, Kevin.
wasn't, and
I
he-
still wouldn't text
And
it.
Haley and Brendan, who work on the show too, they're the same way today. These are adults. These are adults that believe in jinxes.
I'm only an adult by age, John.
They believe in
not
jinxes.
by heart.
Kevin, I'm telling you.
Listen, Andrew, if you had that power and all the other guys that are in the booth, if you guys had that power, wouldn't you be putting it to better use?
Seriously.
How do you think the Eagles won the Super Bowl last year, Kevin?
yeah,
Come on,
exactly.
man. I got to keep that stuff to myself, though.
Good job, Kev.
Kevin, we appreciate
Thank
the
you,
time as
buddy.
always, brother. Keep up the great work on Sports Center. We'll be talking again next week.
That would be good. Go,
Take
Phil.
care, man.
Go Phil.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for checking out the 97.5 The Fanatic YouTube channel. Thanks for watching our videos. We'd ask you to like and subscribe and check out everything we've got going on at the station. We love having you a part of the family.